I'm re-recording an intro to this video in that Mac Tagliere for Fantasy Pros, please keep his family in your thoughts and prayers. I'm going to leave a GoFundMe link in the description of this video and also in the comment section. We'll keep it brief. I know a lot of y'all really enjoyed his work, a great member of the fantasy football community. Please think about his family, and there's the GoFundMe link in the description of the video as well as the comment section.
That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, so let's go through and let's talk about some of the most up-to-date injuries that we have leading into Sunday. Now, please bear with me because I'm having to record this as close to Sunday as I possibly can. That way I can give you the most up-to-date reports. But, I mean, the editing with this video is not going to be up to par with what we usually have just because we don't have Thomas the God out here editing it. And yeah, before we get into it, you know exactly what we have to do. I have to pull up our most recent YouTube video. That way I can go through, grab a couple comments to give out a Fantasy Flock Network hats. Y'all know we were giving out a ridiculous amount of these every single day, multiple hats every single video. So make sure you go down there, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment if you want to be entered in to win a Fantasy Flock Network hat. And our first winner here is going to be coming out from Spawns, who says, "Thanks for doing what you do. Probably changed my lineup 19 times this week. Full PPR, Smith, Chase, Damian Harris need to." Okay, I'll go through and I'll comment on that, replying to your comment. But anyway, you won that Fantasy Flock Network hat. All you have to do is go through and make sure that you're sending me an email with your physical address. And then I'm very happy to announce that our next comment going to be someone that leaves a comment on every single video, out in every single video premiere. Super happy you popped up here. We're going to go with a Suzuki Huchinga. I'm apologizing for never being able to say your name correctly, but anyway, he comes out to every single one of these video premieres. He comes out to every single video. So my friend, thank you so much. I am ecstatic that I'm able to send you a Fantasy Flock Network hat. Please make sure you go through and email fantasyflocknetwork@gmail.com with the email that you left that YouTube comment on. That way I can send you that hat ASAP. And that should be it. Let's go through and let's get these players going. Our first guy will be Odell Beckham Jr. Odell Beckham Jr. officially off the injury report going into week 3, going up against the Chicago Bears. Now, despite Chicago having a pretty good defensive outing against Joe Burrow this past week in the Cincinnati Bengals, I'm still standing by the fact that I'm not too worried about the Chicago Bears defense. I think this is a spot that we can continue to freely play our players going up against them. Now, with Odell, it's a pretty difficult spot because you're looking at the fact that Jarvis Landry is not going to be playing in this game, which would make you think that Odell is just going to be in line for a crap ton of targets and that we want to be jamming him in. But at the same time, we just haven't seen Odell Beckham Jr. yet this year, so I'm kind of afraid that he's not going to be fully healthy going into this week. We have to remember in week 2, Odell Beckham Jr. was actually ruled out on like Wednesday. But to go along with this, the Cleveland Browns were 12.5-point favorites over the Houston Texans. So I think that maybe in week 2, they go, okay, well, we're winning this game regardless of if Odell Beckham Jr. is playing or not. So maybe they just ruled out Odell Beckham Jr. at the very beginning of the week going, hell, he can probably play if we want him to, but let's make sure that we wait so he's 100% in week 3. I think it's honestly probably a little bit closer to that situation than what we have in San Francisco right now, where it looks like Brandon Ayuk, while yes, he's playing, I mean, clearly he's not healthy. I think you can expect Odell Beckham Jr. to be close to 100% this week. And yeah, I mean, if you want to be playing him against the Chicago Bears, it's not a matchup that I'm too worried about. Also, Jarvis Landry missing should mean an expanded target share for Odell Beckham Jr. So hopefully we get a strong week. I have Odell in a couple leagues, and I'll say in my deeper dynasty formats where we have to start 11 players, of course, I'm jamming Odell Beckham in my starting lineup. But if you're playing in a 10-man league where you only have to start 2 wide receivers and 1 flex, there we probably look to just avoid starting Odell Beckham Jr. because while yes, he does have that elite ceiling, he is also going to have a very low floor. So it's going to be down to the format that you're playing in on if you should be starting Odell. But make sure you just leave a comment with any start sit questions you have below. I'm going to try to answer as many of those as I can. And also, we'll live stream tonight. We'll live stream tomorrow morning. You know, we have live streamed like 100 days in a row at this point, answering as many questions as possible. So just make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the bell next to it. Now, our next player will be Carson Wentz, who, of course, you're not planning on starting in fantasy, but, I mean, you're planning on starting some Indianapolis Colts players So Carson Wentz should be good to go this Sunday. And this definitely makes an impact for two players in particular. This makes an impact for Michael Pittman. This makes an impact for Jonathan Taylor. We've had a lot of questions centered around Jonathan Taylor this week so far. We have a lot of questions with people asking me, should I want Jonathan Taylor or David Montgomery rest of season? And I'm sitting here going, what the hell are you talking about? Of course you prefer Jonathan Taylor in that instance. So at this point, I think it's safe to say that Jonathan Taylor is almost an underrated running back. Now, of course, he didn't have the best week this past week against the Los Angeles Rams, but we have to remember Carson Wentz left this game a little early with an injury. To go along with it, it's one of the toughest defenses that you can go up against in the NFL. So I think that we can just kind of throw out that game that we had from the Los Angeles Rams in week 2, take a step back, look at Jonathan Taylor and say, at the end of the day, this is a player with an alpha running back profile where we know that he's going to be that bell cow guy. And it looks like Michael Pittman as well in this offense. Pittman, not someone that I liked coming into this season that much. Y'all know that I was saying that, we would prefer to get Paris Campbell with the last pick in our draft. Well, Paris Campbell's been hurt so far this year to nobody's surprise. So if you have Michael Pittman this week, I think you could go through and start him because it's a pretty good matchup. Now, our next player is not just going to be one player, but let's talk about the entire situation in San Francisco. So it looks like you're going to have both Elijah Mitchell and JaMycal Hasty missing this week. And Trey Sermon, what a wild ride. It seems like this storyline that we have had with San Francisco, where it's Raheem Mostert for the first week, then, oh crap, Trey Sermon's not splitting the backfield with Raheem Mostert. All of a sudden, it's Raheem Mostert and Elijah Mitchell. Then going into week 2, it's like, oh crap, I guess it's now just Elijah Mitchell, JaMycal Hasty, and then we're getting some Trey Sermon at the end. But now in week 3, it's just Trey Sermon. It seems like this should be a storyline that's played out through the entire season. Now, it's only been 3 weeks, so of course, it's been a wild one. I'll say with Trey Sermon, it's still so hard to start him. And keep in mind, I hated Raheem Mostert coming into this season based on just his durability concerns. So I was drafting a lot of Trey Sermon. I really wanted to believe in Trey Sermon coming into the NFL. Now, the problem is, however, you're looking at this profile for Trey Sermon and you're saying, okay, well, what Kyle Shanahan is telling us here, Kyle Shanahan is telling us that Trey Sermon is not that good of a running back, because if he was willing to play both Elijah Mitchell and JaMycal Hasty over Trey Sermon this past week, we have to question exactly what we have, as well as you just have reports coming out of San Francisco of like Kyle Shanahan saying, please, Elijah Mitchell, we're hoping you play. We hope you're saying, what the hell? Why are you just trying to put Trey Sermon down as far as you can? He clearly has no confidence in the coaching staff. So I will say that Kyle Shanahan knows more about the game of football in his left pinky toe than I do in my entire body. It doesn't matter what I thought about Trey Sermon coming into the NFL. If Kyle Shanahan's trying to tell us that Trey Sermon is this bad, we probably have to listen to him. So I'm still going to be worried about starting Trey Sermon in this instance. I think if you have like Javonte Williams, I would honestly probably go Javonte Williams over him. Now, speaking of those rookie running backs, we're going to have Michael Carter stepping into what should be a lead role with New York this week, as Tevin Coleman is listed out. So if you've asked me a question previously going, oh, Mason, should I start Michael Carter or player X? Now Michael Carter is significantly more appealing because he's just going to be playing in a backfield where he is running alongside Ty Johnson. And here with Ty Johnson, just not a talented running back. Now, the problem is this New York Jets offense is going to have such a hard time moving the ball down the field. The Denver Broncos defense has been impressive so far through the first 2 weeks. So don't necessarily know if we want to be starting Michael Carter here with Tevin Coleman being listed as out, but at least he's very appealing. Like if he's on the waiver wire, go pick up Michael Carter ASAP. Now, to nobody's surprise, this got broken earlier this week, but Antonio Brown out due to COVID. I know that they're going up against a very tough defense in the Los Angeles Rams, but Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Rob Gronkowski, they're all must-start players. You're not going to be able to get away from them. I'll say really we don't want to start any of the running backs here. We want to start the obvious guys. Not too much to talk about. With Antonio Brown also, this isn't going to be a long-term injury. Now, in regards to Mike Evans versus Chris Godwin, I would actually project Jalen Ramsey to most likely be a little bit more on Mike Evans this game, knowing that Evans should be playing more on the outside, whereas Chris Godwin can be running his routes out from the slot as well. So I would rather have Chris Godwin over Mike Evans this week, like we had them going into the season. But just a quick side note, Antonio Brown out, make some small adjustments. Now, our next question coming out, our next injury is going to be Laviska Shenault here. Laviska Shenault should be good to go this week. Now, with Shenault, you can't play him yourself, but what this does mean is it means bump down Marvin Jones Jr., bump down DJ Chark. with the overall struggles for this Jacksonville Jaguars offense, I mean, it just looks like when we thought that both DJ Chark and Laviska Shenault were going to be viable options, I don't think either guy will be until we see Trevor Lawrence at least take a step forward. And I mean, with Lawrence here, he was just such a highly rated prospect over the past 3 years. To be honest, at Clemson, everybody thought that Trevor Lawrence was going to be the next Andrew Luck. And I guess Urban Meyer is just, I don't know, just maybe one of the worst coaches in the NFL, because this offense looks like you can't really start any of these guys. So with Laviska Shenault being good to go, doesn't have an impact on Laviska. You don't really want to be starting him anyway. But now I think that you want to lower down both Marvin Jones and DJ Chark. Now, our next player will be Josh Jacobs, who is listed as doubtful this week. With Josh Jacobs, if he is out, honestly, I want to be playing Kenyon Drake everywhere. I mean, with Kenyon Drake this past week, he had a decent amount of usage in the receiving game. Now, sadly, we didn't really get to see the red zone role that, I mean, you would have had with Kenyon Drake. Remember what we were saying coming into the week is why we like playing Kenyon Drake against Pittsburgh, is we assumed that he was going to have every target out of the backfield for this Las Vegas Raiders offense. And as well, he could have that goal line usage. Well, I mean, just sadly, the Pittsburgh Steelers defense didn't allow that to happen. The Raiders were able to put up points, but they were mainly with big plays coming from Henry Ruggs. I think this week against Miami will be a lot better for Kenyon Drake. Still want to be going in, jamming in Kenyon Drake, as we said on our must-start running back video. Whoever the starting running back is for Las Vegas, that's someone that you want in your starting lineup this week. Now, Deonte Johnson listed as out this week. I mean, with Deonte Johnson, y'all know a player that I did not like coming into fantasy drafts this year for durability concerns, for the fact that he also is a very inefficient player. But now you have to bump up both Chase Claypool and Juju Smith-Schuster. You have to be a little worried about this overall offense, just knowing that with Ben Roethlisberger looking like a corpse of his old self, I mean, that the production really is not going to have a super high ceiling, but it will be a decent matchup for Pittsburgh here. I think you're going to be fine playing either Juju or Chase Claypool against the Cincinnati Bengals, knowing there is an outside shot that this game is pretty high scoring. Now, T. Higgins listed as doubtful in that same game. So operating under the assumption that T. Higgins is going to miss this week, Jamar Chase all of a sudden becomes a player that you have to have in your starting lineup. And Tyler Boyd is definitely an intriguing option for your flex. Now, I know Tyler Boyd was very disappointing week 1 against the Minnesota Vikings, but if you're actually looking at that week 2 performance, he did put up a reasonable finish. I mean, going up against the Chicago Bears, that's also a defense that you also had, I mean, slot wide receiver Cooper Kupp putting up a ridiculous amount of points again. So I think that maybe this matchup's going to be worse for Tyler Boyd going up against Pittsburgh. But at the end of the day, I mean, there's just going to have to be somebody catching the ball here. And we know that all those targets are going to get funneled to those 2 wide receivers with Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd. So if T. Higgins does not play this week, I think that you honestly probably have to start both of those options, but definitely Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, a little more dependent on what you actually have with your league format. Now, our next player will be Darnell Mooney. Going to keep this one very brief. Questionable, but he did practice all week, so I would actually expect that Darnell Mooney's probably going to play. I think with Justin Fields, you're not really excited to play Darnell Mooney regardless. So even though that he should play this week, I'm probably not going to want to play him in our starting lineups, to be honest. So Darnell Mooney, probably a sit for me. Now, Darrell Henderson, going to be a game time decision here. With Darrell Henderson, doesn't matter if he plays, doesn't matter if Sony Michel plays. I don't want either in my starting lineup if we can avoid it, just knowing that, I mean, if Darrell Henderson plays, he's going to be at, what, 50%? I think Sony Michel would work in as a committee running back in this backfield, and they are having the toughest matchup they're going to see all season against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, knowing that this Buccaneers team should be able to play a very close game, and with their elite run defense, you're going to be seeing it as a situation where the Rams are forced to throw the ball over and over again. So yeah, with Henderson, I think that we want to bench him regardless of if he plays this week or not. Now, Amari Cooper is our next player here, and Amari Cooper is good to go against the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, with Amari, I know that he had a down week this past week. Personally, I don't really care. I think that we want to be jamming him in everywhere. I'm not too concerned about this Philadelphia Eagles defense. And also with Amari Cooper, he is a little boomer bust, but without Michael Gallup here, he just has such a safe role in this offense. You have to play Amari Cooper. Now, our next player, Evan Engram, limited all week. But with Evan Engram here, I understand that you're not necessarily too excited about playing him himself, but his availability definitely will have an impact on other players in this offense. Most importantly, Sterling Shepard. Now, I know Sterling Shepard has a great matchup, and you can probably start Sterling Shepard this week. However, for the long haul, I promise you, Shepard is a player that you want to be betting against, knowing that, I mean, with Evan Engram coming back, that's just going to be one more weapon where you can see them just take away targets from Sterling Shepard. Also, Kadarius Toney's going to work his way into this offense later in the year. Also, when Kenny Golladay gets healthier, you're going to assume that he starts taking more targets from Sterling Shepard. And to go along with it, they're about to take the training wheels off Saquon Barkley. Yeah, there are a ton of signs saying that Sterling Shepard's a player that you're wanting to avoid. And the first one's going to be Evan Engram possibly playing this week. We're going to have to continue to monitor that, though. And something that we're going to have to definitely monitor going into Sunday, because we have no idea right now, is going to be a Dalvin Cook. Now, with Dalvin Cook, you can't really find any reports. And just think about it. I mean, if you're the Minnesota Vikings, you don't necessarily want to be telling your opponent exactly the availability of Dalvin Cook, because if Dalvin Cook starts versus misses, I think the game plan for the Minnesota Vikings would definitely change from being a team that's trying to run the ball 25 times this game to possibly being a team that's more so leaning on the pass. So with Dalvin, I bet you we don't get clarity on this situation until Sunday. Obviously, if Dalvin misses, you would love to start Alexander Mattison. If Dalvin plays, you would love to start Dalvin Cook. I think you're probably going to want to start the Minnesota starting running back regardless of who it is. But I mean, if you're a Dalvin Cook owner, obviously you have to hope that it's Dalvin. Now, our next player will be at the wide receiver position with DeAndre Hopkins here. DeAndre Hopkins is going to be a game time decision. So y'all know I came out all week and operating under the assumption that DeAndre Hopkins was going to play this week, saying that Rondale Moore, while we love the talent for the long haul, he wasn't a player we wanted to be playing in week 3. We would rather wait until we're seeing him play over 50% of the snaps for the Arizona Cardinals. Well, if DeAndre Hopkins misses this week, you have to jam in Rondale Moore in every single league that you have him. I mean, it would be a no-brainer to go put Rondale Moore into your starting lineup there. So yeah, I mean, Hopkins being a game time decision, this obviously throws a wrench into your plans to maybe bench Rondale Moore. Now, our last player we're going to talk about is Russell Gage. Russell Gage ruled out this game. Doesn't have a massive impact, but I mean, this just definitely puts the overall nail in the hammer on starting Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts has to be someone in your starting lineup every single week from this point forward. I mean, with what we have seen with his opportunity in this Atlanta Falcons offense through the first 2 weeks, you have to be really excited about Kyle Pitts, even though he was a tight end I didn't love coming into fantasy drafts this year because I preferred TJ Hawkinson, because I preferred Mark Andrews. I mean, RIP Mark Andrews. I think at this point, Kyle Pitts has really proven himself. Now, thank you. I really hope you all enjoyed this video. Make sure you go down there, drop a like, leave a comment with any start-sit questions you have, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell next to the subscribe button if you want to come out to our live streams that are coming tonight, tomorrow morning. I mean, you have to be subscribed or you're not going to see them. And yeah, that's all I got for y'all, and have a great day.